Welcome to the Make You Famous podcast, where host Jeffrey Goldsmith talks with guests about fame and how to achieve it.
I'm your host, Jeffrey Goldsmith, and check out the book at makeyoufamous.co.
Josh, hello.
Hello.
A completely random connection. I simply reached out to you because I saw your coffee cup illustrations and I thought how wild. He's got all these followers. How did he end up doing this?
How did I? I ask myself the same question all the time. I actually got started, for years I was a freelance graphic designer. So when Facebook came about and social media channels really started to sort of like come into the digital landscape, I was sort of sitting at home by myself, working on graphic design projects, designing websites, doing all that kind of stuff. And I worked as a graphic designer for a film and video production house for about 5 years before I went out on my own. And I was always a very social person. So at work, like I was always, carrying on with everybody. So for me, being freelance and being a little bit isolated, social media was like this opportunity for me to take a break from what I was doing, interact with people. I was always, drawing cartoons and also like drawing in my sketchbooks and things like that. So back in the old days, it was, I would email my cartoons to friends and things like that. But social media became this other place for me to start writing jokes, whether they were Facebook statuses at the outset, and then they were tweets. So when Instagram came around, that was a different channel entirely. I'd been writing a lot of, funny tweets for about, I'd say like 2 or 3 years and building a little following on Twitter. But I hadn't been drawing cartoons anymore because I was so focused on growing a following on Twitter, writing jokes. And I wanted to get back, I wanted cartooning to be part of what I was doing somewhere in social. I just wanted to bring it back into my life. So at the same time, I was drinking Starbucks every day. I had just actually been hired a year prior to write social media content for an advertising agency here in Columbus, Ohio. So I was working on a team that with some very smart people that we were talking about social media all the time. And, so I just was drinking the coffee. I was drawing cartoons. I just sort of decided to mash those two things together. And I did it one day, and we were always writing content that was taking advantage of things that were, trending or, live television events and things like that. So it was meshing those two skills that I had been sort of honing over the years, personally and professionally now, into this sort of daily little scribble on the side of a coffee cup. And I just started posting it on Instagram because that was the perfect home for this. A few of my comedian friends really liked it and very early on had encouraged me and said, I think you really have something here. You got to keep doing this. And then my boss at the time said, you should just call it a hashtag 100 coffee cups. You should do 100. It was like March of 2014. And she just challenged me to do 100 by the end of the year. So
that's totally plausible, totally doable.
Right, exactly. So like, because I had a job, I wasn't going to ever say I'm going to do one every day because I had a job. I couldn't possibly, probably do that many. But 100 was like, that's totally doable. I could do 100. So about 6 months later, I think I was around cup number 70 or 75. I had made a friend over at Mashable over the years on Twitter, and I just pitched the story to him. I said, I don't know if you guys would ever, they had, run my tweets and some of their stories in the past. And I just said, listen, I don't know if these coffee cups are of any interest to you, but I think they're kind of cool. What do you think? And he's like, oh my God, it's a great idea. I can't believe I didn't think of it sooner. A few days later, they put a story in Mashable. They shared like 30 of my best cups or 20 of them. And the very next day, it got picked up by BuzzFeed, and then it just got picked up by everybody else.
So there's a big lesson in what you just said. So you did cartoon, but your boss challenged you to this 100 cup challenge, which everybody on the planet can do something like that.
Yes.
7.5 billion of us, we can all handle a 100 something challenge.
Yeah.
And then you reached out to a journalist friend and said, what do you think? And your journalist friend said, awesome, did a story, boom.
That's it.
And that's the formula for everyone.
I mean, it's just exposure, right?
Yep.
And what I've always said is people have always tried to ask me about monetizing the idea or making a book and all these other things. And my response to them is that my number one goal is if there is a good idea, the best thing that you can do is continue to serve the idea.
Right. Continue
to explore it, continue to peel all the layers off of that idea, and then opportunities will come to you.
Yep.
You do have to, sometimes I think, make that happen. Like I just had a huge milestone. I just reached 100,000 followers today, like literally 10 minutes ago.
That's amazing.
It's incredible. And so and I will tell you just like a little bit of background there, I've been at 96,000 or just over 90,000 really for the last year. And I was, getting complacent and getting a little frustrated and, and I just wasn't really growing anymore. And then really over the course of the last month and a half, and maybe even 2 months ago, I was starting to lose followers, like not a ton, but just like 5 a day, 10 a day. And I was going the wrong direction. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm still posting. And I decided that, or I don't want to interrupt. Did you want to ask something?
The only thing you're doing wrong is being human. I mean, that's just like everybody. I said this to my daughter once when she was learning piano. She got to a certain point and then she plateaued it and she said, oh, I want to quit. I said, look, just try a little more and you'll see you'll go up again. And she did. She was like, right, Dad. You just have to, you get bored, you plateau. Everybody does this.
That's exactly what happened. It was a total plateau. And what I was doing is everything that I always did. And what I realized is that maybe if I start to become a little bit more disciplined about how I'm posting the cups, when I'm posting the cups, because I think that you also start to have a lot of doubts, like, you have the same things that everybody goes through. Everybody's sick of the cups. Everybody hates the cups. Now I hate the cups.
Everybody hates me.
Exactly. Like, of course they hate the cups. They hate me. I'm terrible. Like I'm a talentless hack. And now everybody finally knew. It only took 387 cups for them to realize that this is a stupid idea. But
there's a name for that. It's called self-doubt.
Yeah. So all my doubts came to life, and were haunting me daily. Right. So I decided to say, okay, well, there's other audiences that haven't seen the cups before. What can I do? I kept thinking of like, how can I make another story out of this? Okay. Because what I felt was, there was complacency everywhere. Like I was just doing my own thing, but if nobody else in the media is noticing what I'm doing, or maybe hadn't seen it the first time, what can I do? My contacts at Mashable and other things have moved on, and other people that I had posted the cups had moved on. The guy from BuzzFeed also had moved away from BuzzFeed. So I was trying to think, okay, what else can I be doing to maybe make a little bit of a story around this? And I discovered the website Board Panda, which is somebody that never featured the cups originally when it first went viral in 2014. So I reached out, I found a contact there. I just sent her a note and said, listen, I don't know if you're interested in this, but this went viral about, 3 years ago. But you guys never ran a story on it. Do you like the cups? What do you think? And basically she just said, listen, Board Panda, you make your own story. Send me the link when you make your own story. You write a little article and you just share some of your favorite cups, and I'll take a look at it and I'll help you with it. And that's what she did. So she basically, I wrote a little paragraph. I posted some cups. She added like 30 or 40 more cups because the more posts, the merrier for Board Panda. And that post went, again, for Board Panda, it went right to the front page. People really liked it and had the same reaction that they did back in 2014. And that led to the San Francisco article, so again, like these things, they build on each other.
Yeah.
you sort of re-enter the spotlight a little bit, and it leads to all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And since then, too, another site that I've been spending a lot of time on is Reddit. And Reddit is a very finicky community, but like, so just yesterday, I posted I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones.
Right.
I've always wanted to do maybe like a sub-series of cups within the greater series. And I said on my first, Game of Thrones post, I said to that community, I'm going to do this every Sunday night. I'm going to do a cup and I'm going to post it on Monday morning. Just that's themed to Game of Thrones.
Right.
And it went to the very front page of Reddit, but also like it was the top post on the Game of Thrones subreddit yesterday, and all those followers, I had this influx of like 1,000 followers in one day. And that's what got me to this 100,000 milestone as well.
And so there's a lot of lessons in what you're saying for a lot of people trying to do a lot of things, right? It's like, the self-doubt is natural, right? But then you reach out again and you can have another, sure, it's an old story. Who doesn't like an old story that's great, right? And then there's you can renew the story by doing a new series of cups, pitching it in a new way. It's great.
Right, and I think that that's what I've really tried to do, and I think that the other thing that I'm trying to do is treat the cups a little bit differently. I'm adding color to the cups now a little bit more, and maybe just trying to, I think just continue to mix it up and experiment with things, and experiment with making it more like a comic strip.
Yeah.
Like it used to be a lot of single panel ideas like that. So now I'm trying to make it as a double panel, so that I can add a little bit more storytelling to it. Another thing I've been exploring with is having characters sort of having like coffee be everybody's little sidekick that's talking to people as they're going through their lives, and making it more about this sort of relationship that we all have with coffee, but we're having some fun with it that way too. And some posts do better than others, and I always learn something, and I always try and take the things that I've learned and apply them to the next cup.
Yeah, I actually wrote an ad campaign for Starbucks once back in the day. It was a long time ago, beginning of internet advertising. And the line that I wrote was, make your daily ritual a holiday tradition. And it was we sold coffee for Christmas, with a little menu from a banner. It's a great subject, right? It
is.
Yeah.
Well, that's the funny thing is I had done a little partnership with a company called Bucket Feet earlier this year, where and what they do is they marry artists to shoes. So I did a shoe design that was a bunch of coffee cups, and I just sort of made it into a pattern. But they asked me to write a little bit about what I was doing and what my inspiration was for this pair of shoes or for this design. And that's what I really started. That's when it dawned on me, like, coffee's my sidekick. When I'm up late and I'm working, it's like my creative, catalyst. It's always there for me. It's not like something that is like alcohol, which kind of, it interferes with your creative voice in some way.
For some people, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for some people it does. But for me, coffee is something that is like that little spark that I need to crystallize a thought or crystallize an inspiration and lead me to a new thought.
Well, so that's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, human beings have a symbiotic relationship, so to speak, with the earth and with the plants that we have on the earth. And, people noticed goats chewing coffee berries in Yemen, like several thousand years ago, and said, those goats are getting off on those berries, and it's become coffee. And so some of us, our brain chemistry reacts to coffee like we're goats.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's one of those things that's like, and I always say, like, even when I have like a bad cup of coffee, it's like human beings will learn to love the taste of anything that makes them feel good. They don't give a shit. Like it's one of those things that it makes me feel awake. It's there for me in the morning. It's there for me at night. It's like the one thing that I just really can always count on to give me exactly what I need from it, which is just like a little bit of a, dust off the brain feeling, and it gets me ready for whatever it is I'm setting out to do.
And so what's the result of this for you professionally, personally? So and also, I mean, I hesitate to ask for advice for young people, but because you've given so much already, I think by example, but what's the result of this for you first? And then what do you advise people who want to do comics, want Instagram, Insta fame, whatever? What do you recommend?
It's funny. So back in the day when blogs was the thing that was really going around, and that's when I was I was basically emailing my cartoons to friends, and there was a blog called Stuff White People Like. That was really popular, and it was made into a book. And at the time, I was really, it was just the blog everybody was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to the person that wrote that blog, and I said, listen, what's the secret here? What I'm trying to start something. I can write funny stuff. I can draw. I can do all these different things. And I'd shown him what I was doing with my blog, which was more of this variety show and this variety act. It was a little bit of writing. It was a little bit of cartoons. It was like a little bit all over the place. And what he had said was, the advice he gave me is to pick one thing and focus on that. And like I said before, he's like, when you have one subject or one filter that you put everything through and look at the world through, like that's what people really gravitate to in this world. They want like one theme that they can, that is maybe different than something else, that's super unique way of looking through the world or looking at the world. And that consistency throughout, whether it's a coffee cup or, just like shit my dad says was one of the early viral sensations on Twitter. It's like this consistent way of communicating an idea is something that really is worth a look. And I think that you can see that throughout, whether, I look at a lot of web comics and I look at the things that make them special, but sometimes it's just a consistency in style and approach. It's a theme. It doesn't have to be limited to something that's maybe gimmicky, like drawing on a coffee cup every day. But it does have to have focus. And I think that that's partly the main advice that I could give people, is to find something that feels like worthy of focus, that feels versatile, that feels like you could do it a whole bunch of different ways, but that there's some consistency that people can hang their hat on every day.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing with this, right? I'm interviewing people about how they became famous in some way. It's super
right. Fun. Exactly. That's what people go to. I think that especially, working in social media and designing content for all sorts of different brands and people, and seeing the way other people do it, and looking at influencers and all these other people that have made a name for themselves across the internet. That's the real consistency that you see throughout, is that they've figured out their voice. And that is what everybody can, I think, can parse the different voices that they want to be a part of and that they want a part of their day.
Yeah, I used to write for Wired, and Kevin, back in the day, and Kevin Kelly said, people buy magazines for the edit. It's like the edit of the world, because the world is just random, You edit it to you frame it in a certain way, and that people buy it for the framing. They buy a photograph for the framing. For the composition, for the focus.
The curation. I mean, look at how many people across the internet or across Instagram that have built huge followings just on curating great material.
Yeah.
Because people don't have time. They want to know. They don't want to see you go 18,000 different directions. Yep. What they want is one thing that they can count on. And really, honestly, I learned that early on. I was obsessed with cartoons and comics from a very young age, whether it was Peanuts or Bloom County or Doonesbury or, eventually Calvin and Hobbes and The Far Side. All of these different artists were just geniuses at creating consistency, creating that singular voice that everybody could count on every single day, and learning how to repeat it and grow it and continue to look at different things that we were all looking at, and make art, which is really ultimately what they did.
This is great. Yeah. And so what's been the result for you? I mean, what have you gotten from this? I mean, professionally, has it helped your career? Are you making money from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it did. I mean, in a lot of ways. So I got the job at this ad agency based on my Twitter following. I mean, I think that there's a story in and of itself. And, you know, I spoke on a panel at South by Southwest 3 years ago with some other friends I'd made on Twitter that had, you know, used their Twitter accounts to get jobs, whether it was in the entertainment industry. You know, for me, it was the advertising industry. You know, and then, you know, the street cred at work was fantastic. Not only did I have a big Twitter following, but then I was here for a year, and then all of a sudden I went viral on Instagram. You know, so again, it's just, you know, as far as like the way that the leadership at my own company saw me was that, okay, this guy, you know, when they would pitch using me to clients, they would say, this guy knows social, you know, he knows how to develop content, just follow his personal stuff. Right. You know, so they were able to say you're in good hands. So it's been good for my career in this world, which was a totally new career. Again, I was a graphic designer. I wasn't even a writer at the time, but now I'm more of a writer than a designer. So there's that, but then there's, you know, and then who knows where the cups will lead. Again, like I've sort of stuck my toe in the water with trying to do a little bit of merchandising, and that's been somewhat successful, but I still haven't. Yeah, exactly. There you go. You know, so I'm still trying to figure out like a real plan, you know, for myself there. My brother works in the entertainment industry, so he's been trying to get me to write a book for many years. So there's that still out there, you know, but again, like I said, I'm trying to stay focused on making this even more successful than it's been and continue to grow it and making sure that that line is just always going up instead of dipping and plateauing. As long as I feel like I'm continuing to delight people, give them what they want and what they come for, then I'll, when I feel like I have that figured out, that's when I'm going to start maybe spending a little bit more time on making money from it, monetizing it in some way.
Okay. Do you have a cup in front of you, or?
I did bring a bunch. So
let's see.
Let's see.
We just started with that.
This is the 100,000 cup I just posted. So
nice.
That one I did today while I was in meetings. My coworkers are very you know, they're very patient with me doing stuff. Here's one of the ones that I just told you about. That's like a little bit more of this 2-panel idea of the relationship with coffee. This one is a similar one. It's just a young lady sort of also dealing with coffee. I noticed I had a lot of female followers on Instagram, and I realized, there's another cartoonist that I'm very friendly with that that lives also in Columbus, and we have coffee and we talk shop all the time. And one of the things that we talked about was that I had a lot of female followers, and I realized that, you know, I always sort of draw myself on the cups, and maybe I should start, you know, drawing some that, you know, just allowing there to be more female characters in what I'm doing. Since I have so many women following me, it's like, you know, they should be a part of this too. Here's the Game of Thrones cup that I posted yesterday, and mind you, when you look at it online, you'll see that I've added color, but the winter is here. You know, you have the Night King all coming for iced coffees. This guy was just like another straight illustration. He's like a tattoo dude, all of his coffee tattoos.
Committed to caffeine.
And then finally, of course, you know, our dear president tweeting, you know, so he has been also a common subject these days. That's hard to avoid. So
that's pretty easy fodder.
Yeah, right, exactly. So that's just these are just some of the ones that I have on my desk. They pile up, and then I take them home and
so I have an idea for you. Put a couple of those coffee cups in a box, send them to Stephen Colbert.
Oh, you know what? It's funny. I'm very friendly with his publicist, and yes, I can absolutely do that. I never asked her what she would think of something like that, but maybe he'd be game.
That's 1 million followers.
There you go. I mean, that's it. You know, but that's what I realize is that, you know, for as many followers, you feel very lucky to have every follower that you have. But the fact of the matter is that there's loads of people who have no idea who you are. And that board panda was really interesting too, because I also, for the very first time, when I originally went viral, there were a few because the BuzzFeed article originated in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So I made an Italian paper. I made a paper in Ireland. So it really, the relationship with coffee is one that is being celebrated by the entire globe.
Oh, absolutely.
So there was one that was in Spain, but recently I had my first article ever appear in Japan. So that my first Japanese article, and I have a friend that's Japanese. So I had him translate the article for me to make sure that they weren't making fun of me. And I was delighted to see that they did not. He said that they did.
I've lived in Japan. I have a lot of Japanese friends.
Yeah, I'm very sensitive. I'm like, I don't know, like, are they making fun of me or are they enjoying this? But that was really super cool. There's been a lot of followers that I've recently gained from the Middle East, and I don't know if it was from Syria or from wherever, but there have been a few personalities, and I just love seeing people share my stuff in other languages, and it just lets me know that that's what coffee is. We all have a relationship with it. It's definitely a uniter, across the globe, as far as what it does for the human race as a whole. So I'm just happy to be one of its many muses.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I know you're at work, and but you've given me a half an hour, and and everybody else. And I think everything you've said has been very interesting, and it'll inspire some people to keep doing what they're doing, to do what they're doing harder, give themselves 100-day challenges, just write to the media and, make friends with media personalities to see whether they can get their stuff in Board Panda or BuzzFeed or what have you, Mashable.
You just got to keep trying things. I think that's the other thing is like, just don't give up. If you really believe in your ideas, you just got to keep working on them, perfecting them, and just don't get complacent. And also, it's just like anybody would tell you, like, don't ever take failure as, as something to hold you back. If a post isn't doing well, like we all go through it. I think that if I could and the other thing that I really think is so important to me, and the thing that really I think helped me early on in social media, when I was tweeting, nobody knew who I was. I didn't understand how to even grow a Twitter. The best thing that you can do is follow people that you want to be like or that inspire you, and watch how they do it, because you will watch them learn, you will watch them succeed, you will see them. I did not learn how to write tweets by just, it didn't just sort of come to me. I learned how to do it by following great tweeters or following great cartoonists. Like, I stay inspired and continue to do everything I can to follow as many amazing people as I can, because that's what keeps me moving forward and keeps me driving and keeps me evaluating my work and saying, you know what, I can see why when I look at this amazing post and I look at what I just did, there's a difference there and I need to work harder.
Yep. There's a certain zeitgeist you can tap into that makes things go viral. It goes viral because you're connecting with all these people who feel that way already. They relate to the tweet, they relate to the cartoon, and they share it. Yeah.
Right. Like that one that I just showed you of the young woman and coffee, and she was like having a down day. Like that post tanked, and I'll tell you why. Because I realized that it was kind of a down post, and I posted it on a Friday. Like that post might have done better on a Monday morning, but people didn't really want, this self-deprecating, sort of post on a Friday. Like that's a day where they're filled with a little bit more positivity. But again, these are like the little things that you learn along the way, and you don't take it personally. What you do is you start to see, oh, well, you know what, maybe that's a thing, and maybe, maybe I need to lighten up a little bit on occasion, or maybe they're not ready for that kind of a voice yet out of the coffee cups, and you move on and you learn, and then it leads to something like the Game of Thrones cup, which just went bonkers.
Yeah, you can't. People do. Nothing is permanent, right? So you failed at this. They said no. No one followed it. No one shared it. But that's just now. you can then try keep experimenting, and people will respond or not, and then you keep evolving and keep changing to respond to what your audience is looking at.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me on my book deal. Like, I got an agent right away, and there was a lot of interest in it, but it got turned down. I mean, and they basically, all the publishers really liked the work. They just said, why should anybody buy a book where they could just get that for free on Instagram? Which is viable. I didn't take it personally. I said, okay, well, maybe a book isn't the thing for this. Maybe I'll just keep doing this, and maybe it'll be something else, or maybe it won't, but all I know is I get to express myself on a regular basis. I get a lot of positive feedback, and people seem to like it. And if it making me feel good to share something with 100,000 people now, and have it be enjoyed or even tolerated is nice. If that's all it is, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, there's a lesson in what the publishers told you. If they said, why should we publish this? If it's something that people can get for free, you have to do something that people can't get for free.
I know.
Be able to sell it.
And that's what my brother keeps telling me is he's like, all right, now just do something, that's you, that every time I have a funny idea or a new idea, he's like, stop posting all your new ideas. He's like, keep something for yourself. And that's what we'll make the book out of. And
it'll happen.
It'll happen. I'm not, again, I'm not in a rush. I'm very lucky to have the job that I do. Yeah. And I'm very lucky to have the audience that I do. And, when the right thing comes along, hopefully all the things that I've done up to that point will prepare me and make that next iteration of wherever my creativity takes me into something that's successful.
Absolutely. Because it's not, I wrote about Robin Williams in my book, and, he was a mime on the streets of New York to pay for Juilliard because he didn't have the money to really live in New York. But that work completely empowered him to do Mork and Mindy and everything else. He wouldn't have been as good.
It's all for something. You just might not know what it is yet, and that's ultimately what I always that's what I rely on with everything that I'm doing, is that it's going to be for something. I just might not know what it is. Yeah,
none of us do. Yeah. Well, Josh, have a nice afternoon. It's really great to meet you, man.
It's great to meet you too. And if you have any follow-ups at all, feel free to just send me a note.
Thanks, man.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to check out the book at makeyoufamous.co.